Well, with me now is Natalie McGarry, the SNP's shadow disabilities spokesperson, and the Conservative MP Chris Philp, a member of the Treasury Select Committee. Chris Philp, first, you heard the Prime Minister there saying that he was delighted that the cuts had got the go-ahead. Are you?
Well, I think he was pleased that the vote passed the House of Commons. It could have been a difficult vote, but not a single Conservative MP voted with the opposition. I think what's important, as the Prime Minister said, is that this is part of a package of measures, including a massive increase in the minimum wage, a reduction in income tax, a reduction in social and council rents, a continuation of the fuel escalator duty freeze, all of which together will alleviate the effect of the tax credit reductions.
So you're delighted too?
I think we're doing the right thing to help working people and reduce the deficit. It's important work and I'm glad we're continuing it.
Natalie McGarry, was your Westminster leader really right to talk about suicides after benefits have been withdrawn?
Yeah, I think we have to look at the current situation. We have a generational problem with poverty. Child poverty is at its highest level in a generation. These cuts are forcing more children into poverty. And what we're looking at here really is an ideological-driven attack on working people by the Conservatives with no mandate. This was not in their manifesto, and it's going to there'll be a real impact of 3 million families across the UK.
That simply isn't true. First of all, child poverty in this country has decreased over the last 5 years. Secondly, the Conservative manifesto made it very clear there would be savings in the welfare budget, and that's vital.
Didn't talk about tax credit cuts specifically, did it?
Well, he was asked about child tax credit cuts, and he said we wouldn't cut those, and we haven't. We did say there would be £12 billion.
A little bit Weasley, though, that, isn't it?
Not really. We were very clear there would be £12 billion of welfare savings. These are £4 billion of the 12. We must balance the budget because there is nothing moral or noble about spending more money than we can afford and sending the bill to our children.
You've got to balance the budget.
The way that the Tories are planning to balance the budget is completely incoherent. It makes no economic sense. I haven't seen a single study which suggests that this will have a positive impact on the economy. What you're doing is you're taking money out of people's pockets, people who probably would spend locally. It's going to damage local communities and it's going to damage people's lives.
Okay.
This is an ideological attack,
okay.
A warfare, a war. It's not a war on poverty, it's a war on the poor.
OK, so the Scottish Government is getting power over welfare, over the welfare bill. You'll be getting those powers. Would you then reverse these tax credit cuts when you get those powers?
We have to look at what particular powers are going to be devolved to the Scottish Parliament.
No, but you know that you're going to be getting powers over the welfare bill, so would you reverse these tax credit cuts if you could?
If we had the power over this type of welfare, then yes, but what we're seeing...
Every single one of these cuts?
What we are seeing is that the powers to reverse these kind of cuts will be reserved to Westminster.
But you'd reverse every single one of these cuts, would you?
The Scottish Government are given a budget set by Westminster. Yeah. At the moment, we are currently mitigating the worst effects of the bedroom tax. It is not the role of the Scottish Government to continue to mitigate the worst effects of an ideological war on the poor.
I asked the Scottish National Party yesterday in the Commons if they would use their new powers to increase income tax to offset this measure, and they wouldn't answer the question. The truth is, the way to lift people out of poverty is by better work and better pay.
Well, she's just answered the question. She said she'd reverse the cuts if she could.
Well, but how would you pay for it? And the only way they can pay for it is by increasing income tax. And when I asked them that in the Commons yesterday, they refused to answer.
You'd increase income tax?
The suggestion that people in Scotland should have to pay more to mitigate the worst effects of Tory is completely incoherent. These are reserved powers at Westminster. The policy has to be tackled at Westminster where it has been put into place. And let's be clear, there are Tories who agree.
Yes.
There are Tories who agree with this.
Well, let me tell you about some of those. Heidi Allen, Saida Varsi, Steve Baker, Boris Johnson, Zach Goldsmith, Andrew Mitchell, Johnny Mercer, all Conservatives. They all want to rethink. I mean, it's starting to look like the debacle over the 10p tax rate with Gordon Brown, isn't it?
How many of those people voted with the opposition yesterday? The answer is not a single one. And that's
well, you know why that is.
And that's because they realise that massively increasing the minimum wage and getting hundreds of thousands of people back into work, which is what this government is doing, is the best way to combat poverty.
But that doesn't offset the cuts, does it? The rise in the minimum wage doesn't offset the cuts. The IFS says that. You know that's the case.
On its own, it doesn't. But when taken with the massive increase in the tax-free threshold, gone up from £6,000 to £12,000...
Still doesn't offset
it. That's £1,000. Freezing Labour's fuel duty escalator, that saves you £500 a year.
It still doesn't offset it. All the measures taken together doesn't offset it.
Not a single study has taken all these measures together. And I think and I've looked at it myself, when you add all of these measures together, the extra free childcare, the reduction in council rent and social rents, the fact wages generally are rising at 3% per year when inflation is zero, when you take all of those things together, people will be better off, including working people. I'm
really sorry, but we've got to leave it there. We've run out of time. We'll come back to it on Monday. Chris Philp, Natalie McGarry, thank you very much for joining us.